How far would you go to protect everything you've built when the person you trust most tries to burn it all down for money? That's what happened to me. The confession nobody saw coming. How love turned into a calculated heist. I know what you're probably thinking. Just another cheating story. But trust me, this one's different. This isn't just about a broken heart. It's about losing everything to the person you loved most, and how I had to fight tooth and nail to avoid ending up homeless. If you've ever felt like someone tried to take advantage of you, or if you've ever truly wondered how well you actually know the person sleeping next to you, then this story is for you. Hey everyone, my name is Rick, and today, after nearly 3 excruciating years, I've finally mustered the courage to unearth the story that haunts my dreams, chases me through nightmares, and in a twisted way, transformed me into the man I am today. This is the raw, unfiltered account of how the woman I thought was my soulmate, the person I loved more than anyone else in the world, tried to destroy me. Not figuratively, but literally. It all started with Anna. I met her at a casual backyard BBQ among friends on a sunny Saturday afternoon in the summer of 2018 out in Southern California. She wore a floral sundress that highlighted her perfect tan, and her slightly wavy hair danced with the gentle Pacific breeze. Her smile? Oh, her smile was something else. It lit up the whole yard and came with a laugh that just got you. A laugh that sounded like pure music. I was hooked from the first high. In that instant, I just knew something big was about to happen in my life. Our connection was instantaneous, the kind you only see in movies. Conversations stretched into the early hours of the morning, glances that spoke volumes, and the overwhelming feeling that finally I had found the one, my perfect match. Within a few months, we were inseparable, living a love story that felt unbreakable. By early 2019, we decided to take the big leap, move in together, into my apartment. Yes, my apartment, the one I'd bought after years of grinding, pulling extra shifts and working weekends as a software engineer to save every single dime. It was my sanctuary, my proudest accomplishment, my safe harbor, and now it was our home, the place where I envisioned building our life and eventually raising our family. I was riding high. My career in tech was booming. My bank accounts were healthy. I had my own place in San Francisco, a comfortable car, and most importantly, a woman I truly believed was my life partner. I trusted Anna implicitly, so much so that I shared every single detail of my life with her. My wildest ambitions, my deepest fears, and yes, every single one of my financial plans. She knew about every investment, the balance in my savings, and crucially, the inheritance my grandmother had recently left me, a small plot of land back in rural Ohio, and a significant sum of money that, to me, represented the security of my future. I was an open book to Anna, completely vulnerable, deeply in love, without a single ounce of suspicion. The first cracks, however, started to appear so subtly that I barely noticed them, or perhaps I just didn't want to. Anna began to grow more distant, more reserved. Little things, you know? Her phone, once something we'd share in jokes, was now guarded with strange possessiveness, always face down on the table or taken with her to the bathroom. She'd go out with friends I never met, and any time I suggested we all hang out, she'd brush it off with flimsy excuses. And her eyes, sometimes there was a cold, distant gaze, almost opaque, that I'd never seen before. I, naive and blinded by love, chalked it all up to work stress, the pressures of adulting, the grind. I tried to be understanding, caring, cooking surprise dinners, but the distance only grew, building an invisible wall between us. Then came the day that changed everything. One afternoon, a meeting at work was canceled last minute, and I decided to head home early to surprise Anna. I twisted my key in the lock, but it wouldn't turn. Strange, I thought. I knocked on the door. The silence was absolute, unsettling. I knocked again, harder, calling her name. A few seconds that felt like an eternity dragged on, and finally the door creaked open. It was Anna. Her hair was disheveled, her clothes a bit rumpled, and on her face an expression of sheer panic that she desperately tried to mask with a forced smile and a shaky, "Hey, honey, what a surprise!" My gut screamed, and deafening alarm blared in my head. My eyes swept across the living room, and just for a fleeting second I saw a male figure rushing into the bedroom. My heart froze in my chest. My breath caught. I could barely draw air. "What's going on here, Anna?" My voice came out trembling, barely a whisper I didn't recognize as my own. She stammered, Nothing, babe. I was just napping. You startled me. What a scare you gave me." But my eyes had already caught the crucial detail. A man's shirt with a strange embroidered logo I didn't recognize, carelessly tossed on the couch. It was definitely not mine. I confronted her right then and there, and the scene played out like a bad movie script. She vehemently denied everything, tears streaming down her face, begging for forgiveness. She claimed it was just a friend who had stopped by to pick something up, and that I was overreacting. making a mountain out of a molehill. The excuse was so flimsy, so pathetic, it actually hurt, but the pain in my chest was so searing, so profound, that I could barely think straight. I was utterly shattered. I eventually gave in to her pleas and tears. I forgave her, or at least pretended to, but the trust, that bedrock of our relationship, was irreparably shattered. I just had no idea how deep the rabbit hole went. A few weeks after the cheating incident, the situation unbelievably managed to get even worse. Anna started pushing, with an intensity that made me uneasy, that we should formalize our union. For security, honey, she'd say with a forced smile. For our future, to protect us both. She suggested we get legally married, or at least sign a domestic partnership agreement. I was still reeling from the betrayal, but with that tiny flicker of romantic hope that maybe this would make her truly commit, I started to consider it. The icing on the cake came when she casually mentioned, in a way that sent shivers down my spine, that we should put all our assets in common to protect our shared future. That's when a seed of suspicion, now the size of a redwood, planted itself and blossomed within me. The alarm bells weren't just ringing, they were blaring. One night as she lay sleeping soundly beside me, a sleep that, looking back, felt like the calm before a storm, like someone planning a heist, a morbid curiosity got the better of me. I'd never done this before. It went against everything I believed in, but the suspicion and intuition were consuming me. I picked up her phone. My heart pounded in my chest. My hands were clammy with sweat. I opened her messaging app and searched for anything that might confirm my worst fears. And there it was. The name, Attorney Dave. The conversation, a meticulous, cold, and calculated plan to strip me of everything. I read the messages with wide, fixed eyes, my stomach churning, a wave of nausea rising in my throat. Anna and this lawyer were orchestrating a scheme for her to take me to court. She would claim we had a long-term domestic partnership, far longer than the 2 years we actually lived together, and that she had contributed significantly to the acquisition of my assets. The apartment I'd paid for, the investments I'd built entirely on my own, every single penny. They even had a plan to try and include my grandmother's inheritance. The messages were explicit, no sugarcoating, no euphemisms. We need to prove her financial dependence, invent joint expenses, forge start dates for cohabitation. They talked about me as if I were nothing more than an object to be plundered, a safe to be cracked open. I felt the air leave my lungs. The room spun. This wasn't just a romantic betrayal. This wasn't just a fling. This was a cold, calculated financial coup, orchestrated for months. She didn't just want to leave. She wanted to destroy me. She wanted to see me out on the street with nothing. She wanted everything I had. I was just a means to an end, a ladder she would step on without hesitation, without a shred of remorse. The rage, surprisingly, brought me clarity, a chilling, calculating, and above all, focused clarity. I wasn't going to let this happen. I wasn't going to be the victim in this story. I decided not to confront her immediately. I'd act as if nothing had happened, as if I were still the clueless, infatuated idiot. Behind the scenes, I would gather every piece of evidence necessary to turn the tables on her. The first thing I did the very next morning was find a lawyer. A longtime friend referred me to Mr. Green, a highly respected specialist in family and asset law here in San Francisco. He listened to my entire story in silence, his eyes fixed on me, his expression serious, almost disbelieving. When I finished recounting the grim details, he was shocked, but also in a way impressed by my foresight to not confront Anna immediately. Rick, you did the right thing. This calm is your biggest weapon now. We need to gather more evidence. Everything she tried to use against you, we can and will use in our favor, he advised me, his voice firm and confident, offering a sliver of hope in my dark world. I started a personal investigation, documenting everything, every single detail, every receipt, every transaction, bank records. Anna always insisted on paying small bills in cash, but I handled the larger expenses, mortgage, HOA fees, utilities, internet, etc., with my credit card or bank transfers. I had detailed statements going back years proving that the apartment's expenses came exclusively from my accounts. Tax returns. In my tax filings, I never claimed her as a dependent, and her filings, she always filed as single, never mentioning a domestic partnership. That was pure gold in Mr. Green's hands. Purchase receipts. I had all the receipts for the apartment purchase itself and nearly all the valuable furniture, all under my name. Witnesses. I subtly began talking to close friends and neighbors, carefully probing for any indications that our partnership wasn't as commingled financially as she would try to claim. Little comments about who paid for what during dinners out or shared vacations, who was truly responsible for the larger financial burdens, the messages, and of course the screenshots of Anna's conversations with Attorney Dave would be my secret weapon, the bomb that would expose her entire scheme right in front of the judge. Mr. Green instructed me to be discreet, to not raise any suspicion whatsoever. This was a high-stakes chess game, a silent war, and I had to be the most patient and cunning player. The bombshell arrived just as expected. Months later, one morning, the insistent ringing of my doorbell. A process server stood on my doorstep, holding a legal folder. Anna had sued me. The lawsuit was exactly as she and her lawyer had planned, down to the minute details I'd read in her messages. She claimed a domestic partnership dating back much further than our actual time living together, stating she She had contributed significantly to my assets and demanded half of everything: the apartment, my investments, and even a portion of my grandmother's inheritance. I felt a chilling shiver reading the documents, but at the same time, a bitter, ironic smile formed on my lips. She thinks she's clever, I thought. The most absurd part was the list of witnesses. Some people I barely knew. Others she had clearly manipulated or outright deceived into testifying for her, promising who knows what in return. My family was in shock. My parents, back in Ohio, were furious, wanting to fly out to California and confront her, go to her place and demand answers. I calmed them down, explaining that we had a plan, that I was prepared. It was tough. The rage simmered beneath the surface, but I had to maintain my composure, keep up my facade of the clueless, peaceful guy until the very last moment. The day of the trial arrived. The air in the courtroom was thick, almost palpable, charged with a tension you could feel on your skin. Anna was there, impeccably dressed, looking like a victim, sitting beside her lawyer, Dave, who shot me an insufferable, arrogant smirk. She looked at me with a disdain and coldness I never would have imagined her capable of. She was the face of a stranger, someone I realized I never truly knew. The trial began. Her lawyer presented their arguments, attempting to paint a picture of a long, harmonious relationship, a life built together, where Anna was the invisible yet essential partner who sacrificed her own aspirations to support me. Her witnesses attempted to corroborate this version, but their testimonies were flimsy, full of contradictions, and at times visibly rehearsed, like amateur actors in a bad play. The judge, with her sharp gaze, meticulously noted every detail, every stumble. Then it was our turn. Mr. Green, with a calmness and confidence that bordered on genius, was brilliant. He began to dismantle Anna's house of cards piece by piece with the precision of a surgeon. He presented one by one my bank statements, proving I was solely responsible for the apartment's mortgage, HOA fees, and the vast majority of larger expenses, month after month, year after year. He showed my tax returns, evidencing that she was never my dependent, that she always filed as single without any marital or domestic partnership claim. He called my witnesses, close friends and neighbors who could attest to the actual length of our relationship, who paid for what during dinners or trips, and the true financial dynamic of our cohabitation. The evidence piled up, crushing her fabricated narrative. The decisive moment, the checkmate, came when Mr. Green, with a subtle smile, asked the judge for permission to introduce new evidence. He requested to project the screenshots of Anna's conversations with attorney Dave onto the courtroom screen. The room fell into absolute silence, so profound you could hear your own breathing. The messages, enlarged on the screen, were clear, raw, direct. They detailed the plan, the intent to forge evidence, to deceive the court, and to steal everything from me. The intent of fraud was laid bare, in black and white text, undeniable. Anna blanched, her face contorting in pure panic. Her lawyer desperately tried to argue, claiming fabrication, manipulated images, but the conversations were authentic, with dates and times that matched perfectly. The truth crashed down on her, an avalanche of irrefutable evidence that crushed her right there in the middle of the courtroom. The judge, with an expression of disappointment and indignation, severely reprimanded both Anna and her lawyer for their egregious conduct. The attempted fraud was undeniable, and the case had nowhere left to go. The case was dismissed. Anna didn't get a single dime of my assets. On the contrary, she was ordered to pay all court costs and a significant fine for malicious prosecution. Her lawyer was also referred for investigation by the Bar Association for unethical conduct. It was the end of the line for them. She left the courtroom in tears, humiliated, her shoulders slumped, her face disfigured by sobbing. Me? I felt no joy, no satisfaction whatsoever. There was no exultation. I felt an emptiness, a profound exhaustion. The pain of the betrayal was still there, raw and throbbing, a heavy weight on my chest, but justice, in a way, brought me relief, a form of closure to that hellish chapter. Anna vanished from my life. I never saw or heard from her again, and I never looked for her. My apartment is still mine. My grandmother's inheritance is safe, but the emotional scars remain. It took me a long, long time to trust again, to even consider opening myself up to a new relationship. Every step was calculated, every word heard with a healthy dose of skepticism. I had to go through therapy to process the betrayal, the trauma, and the near loss of everything. Today, I'm in a much better place. It took time, but I managed to rebuild my life, both personally and financially. I learned the hardest lesson, that the people we love can be the ones who hurt us the most, and that trust, once shattered, is incredibly, incredibly difficult to restore. But I also learned that the truth, no matter how long it takes or how deeply it's hidden in the shadows, always comes to light, and that it's always worth fighting for what's yours, not just materially, but for your integrity, for your peace of mind. Thanks for sticking with me through this. I really needed to get it off my chest, and I know that somehow by sharing it, I'm helping to heal this wound.